a new mid-season tier list for Overwatch 2 Season 6. Let's get into it. You already know who's gonna go in F tier. In the wise words of Joe Budden, Hog is a
2-pack of ass!
Moving on to the D tier, where all of these heroes are one-trickable I think, I have Pharah. Still a really low pick rate in Grandmaster, and the times where she is being picked, she is solely reliant on a Mercy. Until she gets more individual sustain, she'll pretty much always be in C or D tier. Next up I have Lifeweaver. This hero is actually viable now, 5 months after release, but even then, he's still weak. The only thing Weaver brings to the table is his ability to support his flanking DPS easily, his life grip which is actually pretty decent, and a Walmart rally. That's basically it. I guess you could put him in C tier because his petal platform is pretty good against Grav, but aside from that, there really isn't any more to his kit. He's just kind of a heal bot for your team. After Weaver, I have Junkrat. It's literally just the one shot holding him back. The second his one shot becomes a lot more consistent, that is when you're going to see his pick rate drastically increase. Still not a bad pick if you know what you're doing. Before I continue, quick coaching promo. If you want to finish the season strong, I strongly recommend you check the link below. I literally do my shit cheaper than the average OnlyFans model. Starting off in the C tier, I have Mercy. She's great when the situation fits her, but that's often rarely the case. The map needs to be in your favour, the enemy team comp needs to be in your favour, and your own comp needs to be in your own favour. Next up, I have Reinhardt. Have fun playing Ryan into a Risa Bastion. If you don't bait out their cycles properly, you're going to be seeing the spawn room a lot, and that's only the first of your problems. High ground and dive maps require you to play Symmetra just to even make Reinhardt viable, which can't always be done. Zen takes up the third to last spot in the C tier. Zen's only really good on long range maps where you can melt down the enemy tank before they can close the distance. That's basically it. I get that we're not really in a dive meta right now, so Zen should be good, and in ranks you honestly should still be fine, but compared to the other supports, he mainly lacks versatility. Next up I have Sombra. I overshot her a decent amount in my original tier lists, but Sombra isn't bad per se, and honestly she could probably be in B tier, but I think the term situational suits Sombra pretty well right now. Pretty good into glass cannon comps, or comps where you can easily go Sombra 76, but that's rarely the case. Lastly in C tier is Cassidy. This might be a surprise, but considering dive isn't popular, meaning Cass doesn't need the extra chunk, the effect of the reduced range is really felt, especially considering how strong every other DPS are at the moment. As a result, he remains a situational pick against dive comps, which honestly, Torb is just better at this rate. Now entering the B tier, we have Ball. Yes, while Ball might not be great in top 500 or in pro play, he's pretty darn good everywhere else. He's a weird case where he gets worse the higher you climb, but he's a hero that actually requires a lot of skill. Regardless, he's definitely playable in your elo. After Ball, I have Winston. With the rise of Orisa, Torb and Bastion, it's not hard to imagine Winston being tough to run. I don't think he's that bad, especially with the rise of Zarya now, but Zarya Reaper can be a good adaptation to run the Winston down. Next up, I have Widow. The reason why I haven't put it in C tier, despite being somewhat situational, is that if you're mechanically talented enough, likewise in Ball 2, you can force Widow wherever and whenever you want. Dive is also looking pretty weak at the moment, helping Widow even more. Next up I have Moira. She mainly suffers from having heroes who offer more utility than her, hence why she has to leverage her own survivability to go on those TikTok Moira flanks. She's strong if you know what you're doing on the hero. After Moira I have Brigitte. If dive becomes less popular, so does Brig. She's still a solid pick in ranks, as she can help round out your team comp and really support your DPS to take angles, as well as having better peel than the entire support cast. But right now, that stuff isn't as valuable in the current meta. Next up I have Sigma. Sigma's in a weird spot. Obviously, he has a lot less sustain than Orisa, Queen, or any other immobile tank seeing play, but he offers way more range and arguably better utility and a better ultimate. I could honestly edge him into A tier. After Sigma, I have Doomfist. Doom stayed pretty low key in the meta, despite receiving a pretty sizable buff to his Seismic Slam. I think that's mainly due to the presence of Orisa, but with Zarya getting Giga buffed and Doom having a pretty decent matchup into her, I wouldn't be shocked to see a slight increase in pick rates. After Doom, I have Mei. Basically a must pick in brawl comps, okay in hybrids, and pretty underrated against dive and mobile comps. The biggest thing holding Mei back is how she sucks on more open maps, like New Queen Street, where it's really tough to get consistent wall value. Soldier takes up the penultimate spot in the B tier, still very strong and ranked, thanks to his own sustain, but he's probably C or even D tier in coordinated play. If you're not getting much out of your sprints, someone like Torb might be a more suitable pick. And lastly, rounding off the B tier, I have Reaper. Zarya is the only reason why this guy is even close to the A tier. Reaper synergy has been as old as time, well kind of, and now that comes back with the Zarya gigabuffs. Only issue is map dependency, and in ranked, you're not always going to be playing Reaper Zarya. Now starting off the A tier, I have Genji. Again, same thing as Reaper, there's nothing really new about him that puts him in the A tier, it's mainly just Zarya getting gigabuffed. However, unlike Reaper, Genji has a lot more self-sufficiency, as we can see in the Overwatch League. Following Genji, I have Ramattra. While I don't see Ram being played all too much, that might change after this patch. Ramattra has a pretty good matchup into Zarya, having way more sustain with slightly less damage and range. I think for most teams, and even yourself watching this video, picking Ram over Junker Queen, Zarya or Reinhardt will be a stylistic choice most likely. After Ram, I have Ashe. She was a tough placement, considering she's not too popular in pro play, but she's very strong in ranked. The Coach Gun gives her flexibility on maps with high ground, her Dynamite gives her flexibility against brawl comps, and her gun gives her the range that her counterparts might not have. Hanzo's up next, and likewise to Ashe, they both struggle against dive, especially compared to their more tanky or more mobile counterparts being Sojourn, Cassidy and Torb. However, dive isn't really an issue, and the fact that you can one-shot is a big plus. If you can get away with running Hanzo, and you don't need the sustain of Torb, Hanzo can be very powerful. After Hanzo, I have Bastion. He received a small nerf to his nade, but he retains all the other buffs that he got in Season 6, and he now jumps high with his nades. I underestimated the power of the 50 armor change when transforming, since it stacks with Ironclads, as well as the lethality of his nades. A surprisingly mobile and deadly hero if you use your cycles correctly. After Bastion, I have Sojourn. That power slide just goes crazy nowadays, making her a significantly more viable pick against and with more mobile comps. Railgun is still very powerful too. Again, Sojourn is a very fluid and hybrid-esque hero, likewise to Illari. Speaking of Illari, she's up next. Happy to say that I pretty much got her spots bang on in my tier list, if not slightly lower. As predicted, her damage is insane, and everything else about her kit is supplementary to that. If your team is really mobile or really brawly, or even really pokey for that matter, that's where she struggles. But she's a very hybrid-esque hero, so none of that really comes into play. A very strong carry hero, despite the slight pylon and captive sun nerf. After Illari, I have Symmetra. Her flexible playstyles, 2 short orbs, and above all, her teleports have proven to be valuable assets in both ranked and in pro play. After Sim, I have Torb. Compared to Symmetra, I'd likely say Torb is stronger in ranks, which applies to more of you guys watching. The left clicks are just nutty, and you don't even need crazy mechanical skill to get some good dinks. It's no wonder that this guy is getting played in the league. Next up, I have Orisa. Not gonna lie, I undershot this one on my tier list, and she was basically S tier in both ranked and in pro play. Now she's receiving small nerfs, which honestly won't matter much, but her biggest threat is Zarya. Not only does Zarya have a good matchup into Orisa, but Zarya also got giga buffed. Regardless, I still think she's a great tank pick, with her damage and sustain, and she's definitely still playable into Zarya. Next up is Baptiste. He saw a small nerf to his Regen Burst, but it shouldn't affect his overall efficacy. Bap is worst when he's played with dive, but that's no longer meta anymore, nor is it really played in rank much. Bap is seeing a lot of play, either with brawl comps or in the Orisa Illari comp, showing his flexibility as a hero. Following Bap, I have Echo. Apart from Tracer, she's likely the most flexible DPS in the game. She doesn't even synergize that well with Bap Illari, and yet she's still getting played in that comp. If you want to add a strong, all-around hero to your DPS pool, Echo can be a great answer. After Echo, I have Lucio. Nothing much more to add than what I've already said about him. Yes, he can speed in, but he isn't just a speed bot most importantly. He can peel off your backline, go full Reddit mode in the enemy backline, support your DPS, boop enemies off high grounds. He's just a jack of all trades really. Lastly, finishing off the A tier, I have Junker Queen. We're seeing quite a bit of her in the Overwatch League, and Queen can be a good stylistic choice if you don't want to play Orisa. Her knife is still really powerful, and her ultimate is still really good in ranked. Now entering the S tier, and honestly, not too much has changed. First off, I still have D.Va. Now for the gold players watching this video, soy facing and commenting, but Zarya counters D.Va, I don't know what else to tell you. If the map is swamped in high grounds that Zarya can barely reach, Zarya will pale in comparison to D.Va. In pro play, I highly doubt D.Va will get much play, but in ranked, I still think she has the flexibility that no other tank has. Just do not stack a main on D.Va, please use your boosters. For similar reasoning, Tracer also remains an S tier. I made an entire video dedicated to Tracer, so go check that out, but in short, even though Tracer is currently in a meta where she's at her weakest, she's still easily top 3 best ranked heroes, and she's still definitely playable at the pro level. Next up I have Ana. Nade is still crazy, who would have thought, not much else to say. Kiriko. The hero who just keeps getting buffed for literally no reason, Kiriko remains an S tier pick for almost a year straight. If you haven't gotten onto the Kiriko train, you're missing out big time. And in first place, and by far the biggest winner of this patch, is Zarya. Her projected bubble got a mega buff with a reduced CD, more HP, and a larger size. This means it's basically going to be impossible to not farm energy as Zarya, not just in team play, but in rank 2. You get rewarded even more for bubbling your feeding teammates. Coupled with the Orisa and Jungkook meta we've been seeing, and I thought Zarya was already somewhat underrated before this patch. Now, I'd be surprised if she isn't meta. And that's it for the lists. Shoutouts to my channel members, T-Meg, Sloth Dust, Xbenny, Ushi, Wix, Broken by 50%, Susring, Chris Jones, and Craig. And let me know your thoughts down below. Until next time.